So welcome to Satsang, and nice to be with you in this very holy space, the space of awareness, consciousness, that we truly are, the seamless reality of being, the indivisible reality of presence, of beingness that has no beginning and no end, no form, no shape, no size, no division, no me, no you, no other, where everything is revealed to be the bliss of the self, to be the I am, universal self, truth, reality, beauty, love, freedom, happiness. So I welcome you to your true self, to the only self, to the one self that is. As you know, if you have any questions, you can pose them by writing them in the chat box or posing your question live, or if you are watching on YouTube, you can write your question in the chat box, in the YouTube chat box, and Tara will bring it to my attention. Questions that arise are universal questions. They seem to be personal. But in fact, there is no such thing as anything personal. There is no personal. There is no separate self. It is thought that arises, that says that it's my question. But thought is mistaken because it refers to I as the body-mind. It does not recognize, or it has not yet recognized, that I refers to consciousness. That I refers to beingness, to presence, to universal self. In time, with the correct contemplation, with the correct inquiry into what am I truly? What is the reality of my experience? What is the reality of consciousness? The mind will become freed from the virus of ignorance, from the belief in separation. And the body in time will become free from the sense of separation, from the sense of self. And the mind and the body become instruments, tools for celebration and for contemplation and for sharing the universal wisdom of the self, that I am, universal being. This journey, this experiment, which you cannot wiggle your way out of it, is meant for your awakening. Because you are here contemplating the Dharma, contemplating truth, posing the core question of what am I truly? What is the reality of my experience? You are illuminated, you are illuminated by this question, by this inquiry. You're illuminated by the Dharma. And when the light touches you, you become the light. So in your contemplation, you receive the light and you shine the light simultaneously. As the light comes onto you, so you shine the light that has come onto you. So this contemplation is a universal contemplation. It is not a personal contemplation. It is a contemplation that affects the entire hologram. The entire field is enlightened by your enlightenment. You rely on your contemplation, and you rely on your understanding to trust your understanding, trust your wisdom. And cultivate the wisdom of the self within you. So if you have any questions, I invite you to pose your question or your comment.
Hi, Magdi. It's Esther.
Hello, Esther. Hello.
Towards the end of Satsang on Sunday, I was overjoyed with something you shared with John. John posed something about suffering, and you described a way of living that is very familiar to me, and that is outside of contemplation, there is like a malaise. Zoe and I agreed that it feels like something's not quite right. And it's not real intense. I guess sometimes it is, but for the most part, it kind of pervades my life. And I always thought it was because I wasn't aware or I wasn't awake enough, or that was another form of suffering, of identification. But I never thought of it as a blessing. But as you spoke about it, I can see that it is. And I'd like you to talk more about that. Do you remember that?
We can speak freshly about it right now.
Okay.
You know, a few years back, NASA sent an exploration in our galaxy. They sent the Voyager out to explore our planetary system. They did a lot of work, a lot of study to determine when to send the Voyager in orbit and in what exact direction. They had to wait for many years to have the the planets lined up in a certain way so that they can use the gravitational field of the Earth, and then with the help of the propulsion of the Voyager to get to orbit the next planet, I guess the Moon, and then utilize the gravitational field of the Moon, and at a certain point you use that gravitational field as a sling to get to the next planet, and so on. So they went from planet to planet using the gravitational field of every planet as a sling. And to their great joy, it worked like clockwork. They were actually able to take pictures and do observations of further and further and further planets in our system, our planetary system, until they got to the edge of our planetary system, and then it got fired into slung. It got slung in outer space. Now, in outer space is just complete vacuum and just a frictionless journey, unending journey into outer space. This metaphor is coming to mind. Thank you, Tara. Yes, KFD, yes, I received your message. Get to it in a minute. This metaphor is coming to mind in terms of somehow in relation to your question, that awakening to the self, coming to the revelation of the wholeness of being, of the one reality, breaking through the final gravitational field of the planets into outer space, is a long journey. It requires a lot of study and application, effort and dedication, assiduous application to the study of the Dharma and the comprehension of the teaching. There are a lot of subtleties that are very crucial in their understanding and in their implication. And until we come to this complete transparency, to the complete outer space that I used in my metaphor, there is going to be some sort of friction and the need for some sort of gravitational help, the help of the Dharma, the help of the teaching, to somehow sling you out of your orbit. But there is another orbit further along the way. So it is with the root structure of identification and of the feelings. It's very complex. But this entire complexity is arising in the complete transparency, in the complete openness, in the vast empty space of being. Suffering is the belief that things should be else than how they are, and that things should not be as they are. And the impression that things should be than how they are, or should not be as they appear, is intimately connected with the sense of duality of an object and a subject, a separate self that perceives an external world, some thought and feeling structure that still identifies itself and disguises itself as the natural state, while the natural state is not disguised and has no form or shape, no separate self, no separate identity, no thought in it. Thought is a tool for celebration and for contemplation. And when it is not a tool for celebration and contemplation, it is your thank you. I will come to that. When it is not a tool of celebration and contemplation, it is your bourreau. How do you say in English? It is your jailer. You are a victim of thought when thought is not in the service of the Dharma. So you suffer whenever your thinking and your feeling is not aligned with the Dharma, not aligned with truth. The Dharma points to reality. There is one reality, and that is consciousness, awareness, Brahman, the self. Whatever it is that in this very moment perceiving is not perceived, is not a body-mind impression. Body-mind impressions appear to you, but you do not appear. You know yourself without appearing. It's an I knowingness, a direct knowingness. And as long as you are contemplating an external world from an internal self, suffering will continue to arise for you, and best to understand that it is an invitation for you not to fix your world, body, mind, but to awaken. And you awaken by contemplating what is it that is suffering. And within that question, you will arrive to the illusory me that is suffering. But because your inquiry is sincere and not superficial, you will invite this sufferer to arise and present himself or herself to you. So you can become familiar with that sufferer. So you invite the separate self to appear, to present itself, to show itself. This invitation when it's done wholeheartedly with your entire being and passion, will take you directly to the stillness, to the silence, to the formless self. Which is the reality, the one reality. All mind impressions once probed into will lead you to the self, will lead you to that does not arise, that is not subject to anything. And you are that awareness, you are that stillness, you are that piece of being. What you truly are is the unspoken, the unmanifest. Before the thought, before the mind, before any arising, you are. And that I that is the silent self. So you can rest as that. Maybe in our society, we are too habituated to activity, do. It's good to just be. Just be, but without anyone being. Just pure being, pure being. Being. Without anybody being anything. So complete resting as not knowing, trusting not knowing, abandoning yourself to not knowing. The mind will align itself with that, with the reality. It's a disturbance in the field that will come to rest, like a storm that is passing. After the storm, the ocean is calm. And in this calm, everything is taken care of. The world, body, mind is within the hologram. It is not an external reality. So the world, body, mind that is some sort of whirlpools in the ocean is part of the ocean. It is affected by the ocean. The ocean is the stillness, the peace. If you are too concerned about the whirlpool, you become a whirlpool yourself. Esther, I'm not sure if I spoke to your question. but I'm still here.
Thank you, Magdi. Thank you very much.
So KFD, you, Kristen, you sent these messages on the YouTube. Namaste, dear Magdi. Can you speak on the reality of the one and only, that is the one self? You're already talking about the subject of the only one, that is the one self. No need to answer my request. I only speak about that. I don't speak about anything else. Hello, Rajwant. Rajwant Singh. You write, Magdi, could you please share any pointers or tips on life after realization? How can one incorporate it into everyday life? Thank you for these sessions. They are amazingly valuable. Okay. It's a very good question, Rajwant. But life after realization. Before I speak directly to your question, I'm going to speak indirectly to it. And maybe somehow one thing will lead to the other, and we will be together in your question. Just want to clarify some terms used in the teachings. In particular, how I use these terms. So I refer to the term enlightenment, and I also refer to the term realization. And I use those two terms differently. And I want to clarify how I use these terms. I use the term enlightenment as being the beginning of the journey. And I use the term realization as the end of the journey. In the beginning of the journey, that's not the beginning, but very close to the beginning. Many of us get a glimpse that reveals that I am not this body-mind. This body-mind is an appearance. This world is an appearance. I am not somebody in this world. I am consciousness. This enlightenment can be is similar to having a jar, a clay jar. Now there is a crack in it. Something strikes that jar. It's not completely shattered, but there is a crack in it. And when there is a crack in the jar, the water that was contained in the jar will start to seep. Depending on the size of the crack, it will seep slower or faster. Of course, this is just a metaphor. But although the water is seeping out of the crack in the jar is still there, intact, more or less intact. And the ignorance is seeping out of it, metaphorically speaking. Now, you could say that the jar is like the personal self, the belief and the feeling that I am this man, I am this person, I am this woman, I am this body-mind. The jar, and the inside, the liquid, is all my beliefs, all my feelings, my emotions, my stories, the stories I repeat, my memories, all of that. My defenses, my trauma, all of that. Once there is a crack in the jar, meaning enlightenment, the jar can never be the same again. It's not a jar that you can actually go back and fix it. It's not something you can weld back in place. It's cracked. It can never go back to ignorance, to 100% ignorance. There is still ignorance, but it's not 100% ignorance. And there is a journey. Initially, there is a great happiness in general. When there is an enlightenment experience, wow, the Kensho, it's great, you know. In some cases, it lasts a week, a month, 2 months. In some cases, it lasts much longer than that. But in general, it's short-lived. And then the sense of me returns. Because the sense of me is not just in the belief that I am a body-mind, it's also in the feeling. It's also in the body, at the cellular level. And the cellular level, the body is much, much, much slower to release its identification and its conditions. It still has within it the sense of self and the tendencies to defend, to contract, to aggress, to blame. You know, all of these are still in the jerk sort of reactions within the body. And so there is a journey of contemplation. In general, I would say if you've done 10 to 15 years of post-enlightenment contemplation, you are getting closer to the realization. If you are fortunate that you have started your contemplation young and you had your enlightenment at a young age, then there is more likelihood that you will be within this lifetime, if grace favors you and you apply yourself to the deepening of your enlightenment and the contemplation of what actually is the significance of this glimpse, you may within this lifetime be coming to this satsang. Just kidding. To be with your Sadguru. Now, if you are in your question, Rajwant, asking any pointers on life after realization, then I would say that you are not talking about realization, because after realization, the way I use the term, it's this question will not arise. So your question is, according to my lingo, could you please share some pointers, tips on life after enlightenment? Okay, it's just to stay with, clear about my language, so I won't be mixing terms. How can one incorporate it into everyday life? Above all, you need to be careful not to put this precious gift on the back burner. You need to contemplate the significance of this enlightenment. Like when you are walking on the beach and you find a shell, you pick up the shell, you don't just glance at it and throw it away. You look at it and you put it to your ear, you look at its colors, you put it in the water, see how the colors change in the water. You are contemplating your finding. So the main revelation is that I am not the body-mind. What am I truly? You contemplate, what am I truly? You keep returning to what is the reality of my experience. This very moment, there is a reality to experience. What is it? What would know it? If you go to thought to answer this question, you are going to get some old stories. You cannot go to thought. If you go to thought, thought is already conditioned. It's already infected. You have to go directly to the self. What is the reality of my experience? What is consciousness? I am aware this very moment, right? Ask yourself the question, what is it that is aware? When you contemplate this question, you will come face to face with the silence, because awareness is silence. You come face to face with awareness. It is awareness that is aware. It is the silence that is aware. It is non-phenomenal. The phenomenal is what appears, what arises. There is that not arise. That is, isness, not beingness, not becoming, not isness, which also referred to as beingness, but isness, beingness, not arising, not an arising. Keep returning your attention to that does not arise. You do not go out to find that does not arise. When you go out, you will find what arises. You will find the weather, you will find the world, you will find thoughts. To find that does not arise, you do not go out, you do not move. You turn the attention of awareness onto itself. Keep turning the attention of awareness onto itself. Your life will be guided by that contemplation. Use the light of awareness shining onto itself as your guide in the world. Follow the principles of awareness and consciousness, which are, it has no personal owner, it does not belong to anybody, it is the awareness, the consciousness that perceived through these eyes, perceived through all eyes, all body minds. The body minds are like puppeteers, puppets, and there is one puppeteer of all the puppets. Live as the one puppeteer where all the puppets belong to that one puppeteer. Their reality is that one puppeteer. So you live according to the principles of brotherhood and sisterhood, the principles of fairness, the principles of compassion, the principles of empathy, the principles of generosity and giving, the principles of listening and equality and freedom. Not just applied to yourself, you apply them in your life. You have to trust that path, not the path of me and the other me and poor me and better me. That is the virus of separation and of duality. So in your life, you live according to the principles of consciousness. And within your own contemplation, which hopefully is alive, because you cannot sustain living as consciousness if your contemplation is not alive. The contemplation of consciousness contemplating itself, that I am awareness, aware that I am aware. I am the awareness that is aware that I am aware, and I'm aware of the world. I am aware of the world, body, mind, and I'm aware that I'm aware. You see, that contemplation has to be ongoing, simultaneously with the question, what am I truly? And this will provide in your life the passion and the courage and the strength to live dharmically. You cannot live dharmically simply by the mind when the mind is polluted. The inspiration has to come from your contemplation. Living dharmically has to be inspired by your contemplation, and of course by your dedication to living dharmically, and by your dedication to awaken to the Dharma. Also, Rajwant, if it is helpful, and in most cases it is helpful, attend satsang. Study the scriptures when your heart speaks to you to study the scriptures. Sit quietly. Find time during the day to sit quietly and just be. Sit and be. Don't practice any becoming. Simply rest as being. Offer this resting as being to the universe. Do not rest as being for your own well-being. Rest as being and offer this resting as being to the universe. A complete offering. And as you sit quietly, surrender yourself completely, abandon yourself completely, rest completely. Allow all what is arising to arise. And it's complete freedom without interfering, with your complete open invitation. Like you open the doors and the windows of your house to allow and invite the fresh air to enter your house. Okay, Rajwant, thank you for your question. So, Richard, you sent me the question. Hi, Magdi, I harbor a fantasy that the end result of awakening is a problem-free and challenge-free experiencing of life. I find myself waiting for such a time and avoiding engaging fully in life until then. As if avoiding the triggers, the vasanas, is the way or the same as transcending them. I believe I could use some guidance here. Richard, when you are fortunate that the Dharma is available to you, and the love of truth and the understanding of the importance of awakening is available to you, then everything becomes your dharmic path. Everything that is happening in your life, that is arising in your life, is part of your Dharma. Is a part of your teaching. Is part of your sadhana. Do not go back to the mind of good and bad, to the mind that differentiates between this and that says this yes and that no. Because that mind is polluted by the sense of illusory, protecting the illusory self, which is not dharmic. Dharma is the contemplation of truth and living fully and completely whatever is arising in and with your complete openness, your complete surrender, your complete involvement, your complete body mind, like you jump in the water. You say, when you jump in the water, you cannot keep your arm, or you cannot keep your leg back and jump, or you cannot keep your torso back and jump. You completely jump in the water. So you live in your life, it's not that dramatic as jumping. You live your life like breathing. When you're breathing, you don't take half a breath, you take the full breath. Whatever the capacity of your lungs, whichever way this body-mind functions, it takes a full breath. Presence cannot be touched by the mind. Once there is an understanding of presence, there is an understanding that the mind is not an objective arising, it's an illusory arising. There is nothing that is actually happening to you. That lion that is roaring at you and chasing you or coming at you is a dream lion, is an illusory lion, is a paper tiger lion. There is no separate self, there are no separate objects or separate forms. All is the self. So if in your contemplation you are holding back, you are resisting, you are giving credence to something separate. You are giving credence to a separate self and an external world may come at you. There is nothing external to you. Embrace all what arises. Embrace everything that is arising. Drop your defenses. Drop your images. These are old images, old patterns. You don't need them anymore. Now that you are contemplating the Dharma, you're becoming more and more transparent. You're coming more and more to the self. To be the self, you are the self. And that has no images, no forms, no shape. It does not protect anything. There are no residues in that. Move towards the light. You are that light. Be the light. You can let go of the old patterns, of the old habits, of the old tendencies. Invite your body to stretch in the openness, to open your belly, open your chest, be transparent. Release the images. Do not be so concerned about images in the space. Who's thinking what about who and what? You can let all of that go, because now you are the ocean. You are realizing the ocean. The ocean is being revealed to you as the very self. Nothing is not the ocean. It all is the ocean. There is one ocean. And if you are waiting, what is it that is waiting? When you are waiting, you are creating something that is waiting. Some illusory postponement of what? Why play the game of illusory postponement? Let's play the game of illusory postponement of the satsang. Let's pretend. It makes no sense to postpone, and in postponing create an impression that there is time and space and that there is somebody existing in time and space. You don't exist in time and space. Time and space is an impression that arises to you, like night and day. They arise to you, you perceive them. They are made out of your perception. The reality of time and space is consciousness. Dreaming them, perceiving them. Rather than being an object in time and space, notice that all arising arise within you as thoughts and sensations. And they do not touch you. They keep dissolving in you, arising and dissolving instantaneously, like the fireflies. You see, the question that says, I believe I can use some guidance there. Who is this I that needs guidance? Ask yourself the question. What is this I? What is the I right now that needs guidance? Is it not images and thoughts and feelings? There's only one true I, one real I, that is nameless, formless, which is the reality of the self, reality of consciousness. Has no age, no size, no beginning, no ending. There is nothing separate to the self. When you are in sleeping and dreaming, those images that you perceive in your dreams, are they outside of you? Aren't they intimately your very self? Similarly, in this very moment you're perceiving this perception. Isn't this perception intimately your very self? What is this I that needs help? Look at feelings, they dissolve as they arise, they keep morphing. What is the feeling that you felt 10 minutes ago? What is the feeling that you felt this morning at 10 o'clock? Anyways, thank you for your question, Richard. Any question? Hello, Isaac. Isaac, you're right. Hi, Magdi. How to shoot down the wall of personal reactions in relationships. As long as you perceive yourself as a person, you perceive the other as a person. When you perceive the other as the love that you are, the transparency that you are, the presence that you are, the light of being that you are, you're inviting in your relationship this new way of being that is honoring the wholeness, that is honoring the Dharma, that is honoring the one reality. So you invite yourself to perceive with the eyes of wholeness, the eyes of oneness. When you perceive your personal mind being triggered in the relationship, contemplate that this personal mind is not personal. It's a cosmic mind that's being triggered through you. That you are a vehicle for seemingly personal thoughts. But this vehicle does not belong to any person. This vehicle belongs to the universe. It's a universal vehicle. It's made out of all consciousness, universal particles, universal waves. That what seems to be personal thoughts are universal thoughts vibrating within your body-mind and being perceived by that vastness, the vastness of awareness. You have to invite this new way of looking that is not looking through the prism of multiplicity, but that is inspired by the light of being. The light of being is not differentiated. It is not diffracted. It is whole. So I perceive you as I perceive myself, as consciousness, as presence, as beingness, as the transparency of being, as that is unborn. I recognize that maybe there is ignorance in the space. There is personal identification and personal tendencies in the space that are rising as waves and as vibrations. I recognize that that is not the path, that is not the direction to follow, the direction to entertain, to manage. I remain as the self, as myself, as the one self, as consciousness. I remain dedicated to awakening, to truth. I live as that in relationships, in life, at work, with friends, and in my own personal contemplation. I remain dedicated to the awakening of the entire space. I live as that. I do not pursue the emotions and feelings. I recognize that emotions and feelings may diffract within my space, but I will not pursue them. I will not entertain them. I will not live according to every whimsical feeling and every whimsical thought that arises within the space, whether it's attributed to this body-mind or to any body-mind for that matter. You ask a big question. It's not a simple question. You ask a question about how to live dharmically. Living dharmically requires your passion and your complete dedication to truth and your dispassion to the body-mind impressions. Dispassion to the body-mind impressions does not mean neglect, does not mean ignoring the body-mind. It means ignoring ignorance, ignoring that arises with the tendency of separating you, that is unhappy across the board. Unhappiness is not just for you, it is for the entire space. When there is unhappiness, there is ignorance. It's in the entire field, in the entire space. And when you bring to it the light of being, meaning you will not, and you are not entertaining your personal self-image. That is not your interest. If your interest is in your personal self-image and your personal life impressions, you remain in that bubble. You remain under that influence, and your life will not change. It will remain as a whirlpool of feelings and emotions. Contemplate love and truth. Live. Do your best to break the old habit of self-judgment and judging others. Let it go. There is nothing happy in that. Do not contribute to the stream of sorrow. Invite the love, the beauty, the happiness, the joy, the light of being, the wisdom of the self. Invite love and truth and freedom and joy and beauty in your life. Do it on behalf of the entire space, not just on your own personal behalf. We are interconnected in a very, very deep way. It's one hologram. We are that one breath, one consciousness, one beingness, one awareness, one heart, one love, appearing as infinite forms, one reality, one truth. And that's the love that we feel, which is the recognition of our wholeness that we feel as love. Be helpful. Be helpful to others. Be kind and generous.
Hello, is this working?
Yes, hello Ananda.
Hi, I'm in Austin, Texas.
Wonderful.
Just did some nice hiking at the streams are beautiful right now. They had lots of rain and
Beautiful, very lovely.
the hill country.
Nice, nice.
So what I wanted to ask about is the delineation between personal and impersonal is getting a little bit undefined for me, the way I'm perceiving it. As you said, I think you started off saying that there really is no personal. I mean, there really is no personal. There's only the appearance of personal. It's some kind of maybe it's some kind of a contraction in consciousness, something like that. And there's really only consciousness. So could you say something about I don't know, it's like a different place in the journey where personal and impersonal can hardly be distinguished. That is what I'm really referring to.
Right. So best get this question right now in our direct experience, so we can contemplate the validity of what we are contemplating, not just some kind of discourse about personal or impersonal, but to see if we can look directly in our experience right now. So right now, let's assume, just to start the conversation somewhere, that there is right now a personal experience, that this experience is personal. Let's just assume that, and let's look into what does that mean. Let's say that we are approaching this with a baby's mind, with a mind that is sort of empty, but is aware and awake, and is going to look freshly at this question of what would it be? What is the significance, or what would the experience of this is a personal experience right now? What does that imply? So we look at it. We start with, I don't know. Are you okay with that? We start with, I don't know.
Sure, good.
Yes.
Sure, this is fine.
So I say, well, I don't know, but I'm interested. I'm curious. Okay, what is it about this experience that makes this experience personal? So I would say, well, okay, what may make this experience personal is that I am having it and you are not having it. Yes?
Yeah.
Is that a good place to start?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am perceiving this perception, and you're not perceiving this perception. If I ask you right now, what is the color of the table on which this laptop is sitting, you would not know. And if you ask me, Magdi, what is the color of the rug or the floor where in the room I am, I would not know, but you would know. Yes?
Yeah.
No cheating. You know, when I was a kid, I used to go to the classes, and sometimes I would have these little cheat sheets, you know, because there were all these equations. I couldn't remember them. So I would be in the exam and I'd be looking at the formula, you know, but no cheating. Okay. So right. So I say, well, okay, this experience is personal because I'm perceiving this view, and you are perceiving this other view, and that makes it personal. And I would say, well, that's true. That's true. I don't know the color of the floor where you are, and you don't know the color of the table. That's true. But so there is a perception that is arising here, that is perception A, and this is a perception arising, I would say, not being experienced here, that is perception B.
Okay.
Right. Now, I know, maybe I'm jumping, but let me proceed. I know for a fact that it's been already validated that there are numerous situations where I could tell you the color of your floor, not this. I don't have these psychic. I don't have this. This has not manifested here, but there has been documentation.
Oh, right. Okay.
That I could tell you the color of your socks or the color of the pants you're wearing, or the shorts that you're wearing, and I would be correct. And I could tell you where you had breakfast this morning, and I would be correct. This has already been documented, right?
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I can guess where you're going. I would say that's
just mentioning that on the side. That's not the main point, but still it's part of.
Okay.
It's part of the conversation.
All right. So go ahead.
Because the conversation is basically saying, I don't know what's the color of your floor, and you don't know the color of my table. And I'm telling you that there are cases that's been documented that that's not true.
Right. Okay.
So it's not a universal law.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can even tell you your thoughts that you're thinking, or that you thought 5 minutes ago about your mother, or about your job or whatever, and that's already been documented. And you tell me, gee, yeah, that's true. How did you know that? Okay, so that's so it's not a universal law.
Right.
So coming back to, okay, so I'm perceiving this perception, and you're perceiving different perception, and that means that there is a personal, separate persons. Okay, and I'm going along with that. Now let me ignore the color of your floor. Let me go to the color of the dashboard in my car. Okay, or the color of the well, let's stay with that, the dashboard of my car. Okay, and I would say, gee, I don't remember. I'm not sure if it's gray or beige. I would say it's gray or beige. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Right. Then I would say, okay, well, let me turn my attention to the color of the pillowcase that I experienced, and actually, honestly, I don't remember. I have to take a guess, right? Okay. So I don't know the color of the pillowcase. Now, if I go around and tell you what is the color of the sock that's in my drawer upstairs, I don't know. Okay. The point that I'm making is that within a single mind,
yes,
there can be different body-mind experiences that refer to one reality, which is me. It's my experience, and yet there is no recollection. So what I'm saying is that there can be within one mind, across time, a loss of recollection.
Right. Sure.
Across time.
Right.
One mind across time. Now, I'm going to extend this metaphor or this exercise to a recollection across space.
Okay.
Now, right now, I could be perceiving the color of the drawer, of the socks in your drawer, or I have perceived, when you open your drawer, I've perceived the color of the socks in your drawer, and I do not recollect.
Okay.
What I'm referring to is that there can be an experience that belongs to one reality across time and across space without a recollection.
Okay.
Now, let's turn our attention to the experiencer. What is it that is experiencing this perception. I am experiencing this perception.
Okay.
I'm experiencing the perception of the table, and I say the table is brown. And you are perceiving the perception of the floor, and your floor is, let's just say, green. Okay? Now, what is the I that is perceiving? I am not going to put words in your mouth. I'm just going to speak about it from this point of view.
Right.
The I that is perceiving is I.
Right.
I.
Right.
When I that I perceive,
Mm-hmm.
and I perceive a perception of color via the instrument of the body-mind, the eyes and whatever.
Yes.
If
right.
I'm colorblind, for example, I will
Right.
perceive everything blue, for example. I'm just being silly.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So, but still, it is not the eyes that are perceiving the blue. It is I that is perceiving via the body-mind instrument.
Right.
Now, what is your experience?
I would say I am experiencing, by the magic of technology, I see there's a picture hanging right behind you. It's all my experience. It refers to I.
I. Okay.
For sure.
So it's I that perceives.
Yes.
And the I that perceives here and there, I that perceives. Now,
right.
My experience of the I, when I go to the I,
yeah,
I don't find anything like when I go to the glasses, I find the glasses. Okay.
Right.
When I go to the I,
yeah,
I don't find anything objective, anything phenomenal.
Right. Right.
But I cannot deny the I.
Okay? No.
I can't tell you where it starts, where it ends, what size, what shape. It has no sex. It has no age. I can tell you about the body. I can tell you about the hand. I can tell you about the color of my pants. But I cannot tell you about the color of the eye or the age of the eye or the. If you follow me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what is your experience?
Well, I would say I can't say that it's personal.
No. Before we get there. I mean, I could also say, yeah, you're right. You're jumping, but that's good. So yeah, I cannot say it's personal. So nor can you say it's personal, right? So
right.
My next question is, on what basis
mm-hmm.
could I or would I, because I need some basis, because I would be the first one to say, yes, there are two different eyes, but I need a basis. I can say, okay, well, there is a difference between these two objects. For example, this one makes this sound, this one makes this sound, this one I can tell, I can tell you that, you see? So my question to you and to myself is,
mm-hmm.
on what basis would I say that there are two different eyes?
That would be on the basis of the ideation of personalness.
Well, we're talking about the I. So the I has no ideation of personalness. The I is invisible. It's it has no. I'm talking about. We're looking at the I.
Right.
Think, okay. Well, this eye is blue and this eye is purple. Okay, they're different eyes. This guy is blue and this eye is purple. I'm not going to add a color to it because you cannot color the eye.
Right.
But you cannot give an ideation to the eye. It's non-phenomenal. An ideation is phenomenal. It refers to concepts. It refers to images. But
yes,
the eye
in itself.
Right. So you cannot add something to it. You cannot say, oh, well, okay, let me say, yeah, they're different because this ideation, this eye is, I don't know, and this eye is something else.
Okay.
You cannot add anything to it because it's not phenomenal. You see, you can take these glasses, you can add to them, you can wrap them in paper, or you can break them. You say, I'm not going to do that. And then you say, okay, well, these glasses are broken, your glasses are not broken, they're different.
Mm-hmm.
But the eye does not have phenomenal qualities. So therefore, on what basis could you, given that it's noumenal, it's non-phenomenal, could you say there are two eyes? So if you contemplate that, you come to the understanding, wait a minute, there is in fact one eye until something comes in and proves to me that no, there are two separate I's. Up to now, based on my contemplation, there's only one I, only one observer, only one reality.
Right.
There are infinite minds and one reality. So therefore, what to say that there are different persons is only saying that there are different perceptions, different minds. But the fact there are different minds and different perceptions does not mean there are different persons, because in fact, I am one person, let's say, and I have infinite perceptions. And so similarly, you are a person and you have infinite perceptions. So on what basis would we say there are two different persons? The only basis upon which you would say there are two different persons, if you package these perceptions, you say that's package A, and you package those perceptions, and you say that's package B. And then you say, hey, wait a minute, don't argue with me. That package A is different from that package B. Well, I'm going to tell you, this package A is empty, and this package B is empty, and both emptiness are equal.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
So separation and the belief in personhood is a belief that there is a package that is different from another package. But when you look at the package, meaning you look at thoughts, sensations, and perceptions, if you look closely, you will not find, where is the thought that was there a second ago? What is it? The sensation was there a minute ago or 20 seconds ago. When you go to the package, you will find there is no package and there is no content. There is only consciousness. That always is. Everything else is mentation and belief. The sense of personhood and the sense of separation are based on a belief. They're beliefs.
Right.
And we are free to believe, and many people hold on to their beliefs. And who am I to argue with people's beliefs? I only speak with those who are interested. Those who are not interested, no problem. You know, you're free to have. It is your freedom to believe and to feel whatever you want to believe and whatever you want to feel. You are the freedom of the self.
I was thinking, even memory. If we look at, if we say, well, this package has its ongoing trajectory through life, and it has, had a particular mother and all that. You start building up the storyline that's based on memory. And I'm just thinking that the memory is really coming into the now. The direct perception of now, the memory doesn't really hold water.
Absolutely. You can write a storyline about a grain of sand.
Sure. Imbue it with a personhood.
and then you could imbue it with a personhood. And that's actually, I had a conversation with somebody, and I was saying, how about a rock that rolls down the hill? It's responding to, it's rolling down the hill, so it's having a personal experience. We could. I mean, if you want to assign a story to anything, you could create a story to anything and believe. You could believe that every grain of sand has its own consciousness, and it has its own history. You could track a grain of sand over 1,000 years by developing some sort of electronic equipment or some sort of instrument that would track a grain of sand and the life of a grain of sand, and we'll get together in 1,000 years and watch this movie and say, you see, this grain of sand has this particular consciousness. But we're not talking about truth or reality when we're doing that. We're talking about a movie.
So when we talk about individuality as being the generator of problems, of suffering or of limitation, a sensation of limitation, then it's not just pure perception anymore. It's a story added into things.
Yes, because in pure perception, there is no perceiver and no perceived. There is just perception, awareness, consciousness, beingness, whichever way you want to name it and call it. It is just beingness, awareness, consciousness. So when there is individualization, there is a separate individual and a separate perceived. In fact, I don't like to use the term individual because individual refers to indivisible.
Yeah, right.
And the individual is, you know, is more closer to truth than not. But whenever there is a separate observer or a separate self, an experiencer of experiencer, a person, you have a sense of separation. You can disguise it any way you want, but you could say, well, you know, and some people say that okay, there is no separation, but there is a person. There is still a person.
No, I don't. You know, I don't go for that either.
Okay, well, then we don't need to follow that one.
But what I want to ask, though, this is interesting, though, is the sense of, you know, dharmic living. This is what prompted me this question, really. The issue of dharmic living, or really honoring the one consciousness and the love that, hope, you know, permeates everything, something like that. Would you just say that comes about naturally with recognizing the universality of I?
Yes, but you need to help yourself, and God will help you. You know that saying?
Yeah.
Yes, but you need to nudge yourself as well. So I would say more no than yes. For now, I would say no. You need to apply yourself to living dharmically. And I would say also yes, that living dharmically becomes natural as you're contemplating the self. Then you realize that, you know, hey, happiness is the way, peace and happiness, love and beauty is the way. Why would I want to walk in the muddy waters?
Right.
But to just be trying to avoid the mud, or trying to live dharmically without the contemplation of the self, you know, out of believing that, okay, that's what be good, that's what be good for me. I heard that's good. That's the wise thing to do. That's the dharmic thing to do. It's already good.
Or a preparation. That people think it's a preparation, and then I'll do the real inquiry.
Well, I would say that's okay. That's good. That's good. So you do the preparation, but do the inquiry too. Why delay the inquiry? Go for it. Go for it now. Go for it now.
Well, I would say. I mean, I'm just, my experience is that, and I started with saying that it's hard to distinguish between individual and just universal, so to speak. I don't know if my words are really that clear.
No,
but
I'm not understanding that.
If it seems like, I think this is what you're pointing to. It seems like this dharmic living and living in beauty and love, you know, it dovetails with this contemplation, so that you can't even make a difference. You know, it's like,
well, good.
You don't want to suffer.
If it's dovetailing, meaning that your contemplation of truth and your living dharmically are dovetailing, meaning that they're sort of, you know, connected. They're sort of working with each other, working together in some way. Yeah, it works that way. Yes.
Otherwise, it's conceptual. It's all conceptual. Otherwise, there's some degree of conceptuality to how am I living? Am I doing it right? And then also, how am I contemplating? Am I doing it right?
If you are,
as if they were two different things.
Right. If you're contemplating the self, or when you're contemplating the self, and you're coming to clarity that, okay, that I am not what I perceive. I am not the body, mind. I perceive. There is consciousness, and consciousness has no borders. It's universal. Then, and you're continuing to live hoarding and being stingy and being seeking, and it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's abstract. It's abstract. It has to be lived, and life will come and pull you. Don't worry about it. Now, similarly, if you're just living dharmically because you believe that's good for you, it will prepare you for something, and it's a good way, and you know, you're a good Buddhist or a good Muslim or a good Christian, whatever it is, you still, and you're not contemplating what am I truly, what is consciousness, what is reality, what if you're just believing, you know, in that's the path. It's at some point or the other, you're going to come to the dhyana, to the contemplation of truth.
I see.
It's inevitable, because a sense of personal self is still there in your life, and it won't deliver the goods. It will bring you at some point. Dharmic living without the contemplation is going to bring you to the contemplation. And since we are talking now about the Dharma, we are talking about the Dharma and about living the Dharma. So we're talking about joining both, about doing both, about contemplating the self and living dharmically. So
there was one thing that I kind of wanted to ask you speak about at the end of the last talk, and we'd kind of run out of time, I felt so. And that was, when you enjoy something and you're drawn to it, it can either be seeking for the sake of fulfilling this distressed, lacking being, a being that's lacking, or it can be, you talk about it, call it celebration. It can be celebration because it's when you put on your boots and go hiking, it's good in every way. You know, it's not hurting anybody. It's and it's not exactly a desiring and a grasping either, or anything. So,
what is the question?
Just that it seems like the very essence of personal and limited is desiring and kind of needing or something, desiring and grasping in some way, and yet that same in a way the same process goes on.
Well, yeah, the same process goes on, but the source is not the same.
The source.
Yes. The celebratory, its source is joy and happiness and celebration and freedom. The other, its source is trying to fulfill a sense of lack, trying to fill or to abate or to distract from a sense of lack, from some sense of incompleteness,
right?
Some sense of unhappiness. So the source is not the same.
So even when it comes to something like, I will make sure I take a walk every day because I'm healthy, and then I'm better at everything.
That's a smart and a wise, intelligent management of the body mind.
But it can be all that, and basically everything can be done without that kind of fear element. Like, well, I better do these things because otherwise I don't live long enough, or I fall apart, or whatever.
You have to take a close look at this, because the mind is very subtle in deluding itself. So you could be going for a walk every day because, it's good for the body, but you could be also identified with the body. You say, while doing that. And when you're identified with the body, then you're not managing the body. You are a subject of the body. It's a different.
Oh yeah, being its subject.
Yes. So you have to be sober about the source of your activity, and nobody can tell you. You're the one who can see it within yourself. Of course, if you hang around enough with friends, they would be able to be a good mirror for you. They would be able to tell you, well, yeah, it's true. You're taking good care of the body. You're enjoying going for a walk every day. But hey, you're also obsessed with your body. They may be better mirror for you than yourself.
Right. Right. Well, it's just
yeah. So you have to be sincere with yourself, to really be sincere. And the contemplation, awakening is not about having a better life or a good life. It's about awakening. Awakening is about the entire space of body mind. Yes?
there was a little glitch in the
Oh.
Awakening is about the entire.
It's the awakening is about the entire space, the entire field, about the universal self. It's not about any personal self. It's not about improving your personal life or having a better personal life or anything like that.
I see. Yeah, and that's why some of these big markers, are talked about, like fear of death or desire to have, they just fall away because they aren't actually supporting. They're not adding anything to, Satchidananda.
I'm not sure I understood that last thing.
I guess I'm just saying what's based on in some degree or other based on fear and need to that the future will be okay, that whatever. That's still based on the body as the master, I guess.
Well, yeah, whatever activities arise out of the sense of self, fear or concern about the body or concern about my future and so on, these activities are maintaining and they're expressing the sense of self. They're not contemplations. They do not have the contemplation in them. Because when there is the contemplation of the sense of self, there is a stillness and a quieting. And then there is an activity that arises out of the stillness.
And a presence within the activity.
Yes. And the presence is lived within the activity.
Cool. It's cool. And what you said earlier when talking to somebody, and you just brought it up again about it's the whole space. It's not you're getting free.
Yes.
It's like there's consciousness is that's wild. It's like the whole hologram of everything seems to have little whirlpools of somebody suffering within it or something like that.
Yes.
But how setting yourself free, or how recognizing consciousness frees the whole thing. It's so it seems a little paradoxical.
Yeah, it affects the entire space. When you plant an orange orchard, the orange blossoms, the perfume of the orange blossom fill the entire space, and the orange trees, the orange orchard feeds all sorts of beings and birds and bees, and the atmosphere is refreshed by the chlorophyll and by the it's just using a very small metaphor. There is an inherent wholeness and interconnectedness in the example that I'm giving you, of the orange orchard, that is a gazillion times more in consciousness. Okay, so just you take that metaphor of the orchard and put an exponent of a zillion, then
because
you get to what I'm talking about.
In consciousness, there's nothing left out of this holographic completion or something.
Yes, complete. You could look at the entire consciousness as the orange orchard. Yes,
I see.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, Ananda and everybody, thank you very much. Very lovely to be with you all, and thank you for your love and your questions and your friendship. Okay.
Thanks.
Namaste, everyone.